Hey everyone, welcome back to AFTV. Welcome to another live show and welcome to some serious transfer news updates. Things are going off in the Athletic. David Orn's doing some news. Adam Crafton as well. We're going to talk about it all because it looks like Mudryk is definitely on the move this January. And listen, I'm just going to say it. I think he's coming. I think he's coming in January.
Mudryk, yeah?
Yeah, I do. We'll go over why. And don't all get ahead of yourselves. I don't know anything. I don't know people. This is just an opinion. But my opinion is that I think Mudryk will come in January. And we'll go through all the evidence and all that. But of course, I mean, welcome you, Turkish. Welcome
all
to the
good,
show.
Man.
How are you?
I'm all right, man. You?
It's been a while since we've done a live.
Yeah, it's been, isn't it? We had the Gooners versus Cancer tournament.
Of course. Have you made the final?
No, it's finished. I lost in the semi-final to Daniel from Bromley. And obviously, Nikhil got to the final. Nikhil and Daniel, 90 minutes. It was 3-3.
Wow.
45 minutes extra time. Arsenal. We finished 2-2. Nikhil scored in the last minute.
Wow.
And then the next 45, Arsenal. It was 2-1 to Daniel. So Daniel from Bromley won it. Nikhil was defending champion. And yeah, unfortunately for him,
wow,
he couldn't defend his title, but we have a winner from London, so
hey,
all
amazing.
good.
Was this Daniel who beat
Sharoy? Yeah, when he came back from about 4-1 down or something like that.
Oh wow, yeah. Was it Shorts who was in?
Shorts, yeah.
Oh god, that was funny.
Yeah.
He was 1-0 up. He's actually looking quite comfortable.
He was, yeah.
He was 4-1. He was 4-1 up.
Yeah,
wow. Well, guys, if you haven't seen them, they're actually worth going back and watching. And of course, I'm sure you can still donate some way to Gooners versus Cancer. So
yeah, goonersvcancer.com.
There we go.
Gooners v Cancer, Instagram and Twitter. So if you can't donate, follow them up. They do giveaways, tournaments, events, all of that throughout the year. Arsenal related, but I know a lot of ops watch this channel. You can enter as well. Just make the donations and keep up to date with what's going on over there. Big up Mike in the US.
Guys, go ahead and do it. Now, we've got some transfer stuff to talk about, and there's already 1.2k of you here watching the show. Thank you so much. Please hit the like button to support this show if you do enjoy it, and subscribe to AFTV if you haven't yet, because we will be keeping up to date with all the latest transfer news. Robbie is still every morning out in Qatar. He's reacting to what's happening. Today's video was him saying, and I want to reiterate this point, if I just get it up, that Arteta confirms Arsenal will be active with transfers. It was Kaya Kaynak who I think asked him after the game in Dubai where they beat AC Milan 2-1. And he said, yeah, we're very active. We're absolutely looking to do business. And I think with or without the Jesus injury, when you hear what came out from Amy Lawrence's article in The Athletic as well last week, the tone was not Arsenal are going to bring plans forward because of this Premier League opportunity that's arisen.
Yep.
That was very much the tone of last year's January, or January 2022. This time it's much more, there was unfinished business in the summer that they want to try and address now.
Well, we did try and make a few attempts for Douglas Luiz on the last day. I think it was 3 bids in total. Well, the last being about 25 mil, I think it was. That didn't, get over the line. So we have some money there. Obviously, 25 million is probably not enough for what we need to do in January.
Yeah.
Considering the Jesus injury as well. But it does sound good from Mikel. I want to ask you something, though. Mikel, regarding his comments, they, on the face of it, it definitely looks positive. But if you kind of delve into the wording in terms of if we find the right options, shouldn't it be we have our targets? I don't know. Does that worry you at all? Does that kind of dampen the positivity around January and the potential we get someone? Because I would have expected us to have the targets ready, not necessarily leading up to January trying to find the right options. Or am I looking too much into it?
Maybe, but then I think there's always a lot of calling bluff, isn't there? Kind of let's pretend that there's lots of different options. Let's pretend that there's lots of different things that are maybe sort of working on in the background. So then when the CEO of Shakhtar, who is someone we're going to talk about in a sec, is dealing with these clubs, you're in a situation where you can go, well, listen, your client's not the only one that we're looking at, and don't take the piss.
That's
basically.
a good point. That's a good point.
So I think that might be a part of it. Let's break down everything we know. Let's go from, as I mentioned, the Amy Lawrence article last week said Arsenal have a degree of unfinished business. I can try to find the right wording, but essentially she said this isn't bringing things forward. This is Arsenal had business back in the summer. They didn't get done. We saw the Rafinha bid 50 million. We saw the constant links with Tielemans. As you mentioned, Douglas Luiz 25 million. They didn't happen. So Arsenal have been trying to do this kind of business before, entering this window, before Jesus' injury. Now, the Mudryk stuff really picked up over the last month. And we saw Mudryk constantly, whether it be liking AFTV's post, for example, whether it be things he said in interviews, doing an interview with Zinchenko's wife, for example.
He's done as much as he can.
Saying he'd rather be a starter for Arsenal than be on the bench for Real Madrid, this kind of stuff. Do you now reflect on some of that stuff as we hear more and more info and go, he knew this was a real possibility?
Must have. I mean, we must have made some form of contact to make him kind of come out in the way he's come out, because it's not often you see players kind of openly saying come and get me, and that's what I'm taking from all of you combine all of these together. I've never really seen a player go this in heading into a window in terms of literally opening himself up and say come and get me.
I agree.
So I think it's positive signs for sure in terms of, does he want to come to the club, is he interested in coming to the club? That in my opinion is 100% yes. But will the club get it done? I know you're very positive about it. You've just said you think it will happen.
I've got to there now.
Listen, I've been around long enough to see a lot of nearly happen transfer sagas. So I'm hesitant. It does look positive. It does look like he is a target, and it looks like he's very interested in coming. But let's just see if Arsenal can get it done, because obviously financially we've spent a lot of money. We haven't been in Europe. We finished outside the top 6 a couple of years. Yes, we finished 5th last year. In a year we didn't have Europe. So financially over the last 3 years we haven't been in the best of places, although we've reset the wage bill, reset the wage structure, which bodes well moving forward. So all signs are pointing towards a positive January transfer window in the Mudryk aspect, but I'm hesitant to go all in and say we're going to get him, because I've seen a lot of transfers fall over the line at the last minute.
Yeah, I agree. So here's what David Ornstein published, I think it was Monday. So he basically, the article was in The Athletic, with the title was "The Transfer Deals Have Been the Talk of the World Cup." And Mudryk, who's obviously had the time off, is in there. Now, here's what he said. The Premier League paused 6 weeks to make room for this Winter World Cup with Arsenal top of the table, leaving many keen to discover if in the January window they would do stuff to maintain the bid. Arsenal are prepared to do business if an opportunity arises that the club deemed right for the long term, with the Kroenke family, the American owners, wanting to back now sporting director Edu and manager Mikel Arteta. So apparently they are willing to back them now. He then puts their priority target is Shakhtar Donetsk winger Mikael Mudryk, and sources with knowledge on the matter think there is a good chance it will happen, though nothing is agreed at present. Shakhtar have stated their value for the highly coveted Ukraine international as €100 million, which is around £85 million, he says, but interested parties are of the understanding that a lower fee would be deemed acceptable. Now, if you're David Ornstein, you're putting into an article. Let me not phrase it that way. If I'm reading an article in which David Ornstein said sources with knowledge on the matter think there is a good chance that will happen, though nothing's agreed, there's clearly people within his trusted sources. We know Ornstein's the guy when it comes to Arsenal news. There are people who, are saying this is really potentially on.
Yeah, I don't know if Ornstein's the guy for Arsenal news. He's had a few success stories over the years, but at the same time, if I look at the summer, he said similar about Pedro Neto, and there was nothing at the end of it. So again, that's what makes me kind of just take a step back and not get caught up in the hype about it. Well, I want Mudryk for sure. Yeah, he looks a very interesting prospect, and obviously David Ornstein is one of the in the knows or Twitter journalists, people that has some credibility, is higher up the charts in credibility. So it's good to hear it from someone like him, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a done deal or it's anywhere near close being a done deal. No,
and I want to stress that I know what people can be like. If we don't sign and people will start blaming me for saying that I thought it would happen. I'm just putting the pieces together. I don't know anything. I'm just putting the pieces together, and I'm coming to the opinion and conclusion that I think this might happen. But you're absolutely right. Arsenal, over many, many years, have looked very close to doing deals, and they just haven't happened. I remember seeing an Instagram of Benzema on a plane with what was the caption? Yep. Which was something like New Adventures or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's happening.
Twitter went into meltdown.
I was like, Benzema's coming. And it didn't. But okay, that's not a journalist saying. But listen, you think of the Tielemans thing. We had the whole Emirates Stadium singing, "We'll see you next week." There was that many reports and rumours that we wanted him, and it never happened. So,
got a comment here from Kyle, and Kyle's always here. So listen, I haven't fact checked this, but he said Arsenal had a friendly tournament in Dubai. We know all about that. Just finished that yesterday against AC Milan, and he said Mudryk was also spotted in Dubai. coincidence? I think not. Is that true?
I've seen pictures, and someone has said this is Mudryk in Dubai. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know when Shakhtar return from this World Cup break? I'll have a quick check in the
I'm not
background.
100% sure. While you do that, let me just read this bit of the article as well. So, also among the clubs in touch with both Shakhtar and Mudryk's representatives, with a 21-year-old known to be focused on a move to the Premier League and determined to make the Emirates Stadium his destination. So, David Ornstein has said, this is with a fee that they're saying publicly, but some believe that they'd probably accept less, which is not the 85 million that they're asking for. Other sources believe there's, a good chance it might happen. Arteta and Arsenal made him their number one priority, and Mudryk is determined to make the Emirates his destination. Cool. So then this comes out today. Adam Crafton again in The Athletic. Shakhtar Donetsk hold talks over potential Mikhailo Mudryk sale. Several clubs have held talks with Shakhtar Donetsk CEO Serhei Palkin over the signing of Mikhailo Mudryk. Palkin was in London this week and held discussions with several clubs over a player the Ukrainian club believed to be worth £86 million. Brentford, Everton had interest last summer, but the player's standout performance in the Champions League have brought Arsenal to the table, while Newcastle and City have been tracking the player as well. And then asked by The Athletic if Mudryk will be sold in January, Palkin said, so this is the CEO of Shakhtar, to be honest, I do not know. At the moment, we are quite far from what we want and what clubs propose. It's not so far, but it is not what we need. We have discussions, one club, another club, they negotiate. We are in the process. Will it close this month? I don't know. It is maybe 50-50 with regards to the winter transfer window. I don't want to talk about figures now. We are in discussions. We have interest from some English clubs, and we are in the process.
Some English clubs. Well, I guess that, that might be a ploy from their side, similar to what you assume with Arteta's comments about keeping options open. Maybe that's a ploy from their side to say, listen, you're not the only club interested. As much as Mudryk wants to come to you, if another club offers more, that's where we're going to lean towards.
Yep.
They've got to protect their best interests as well, so it's all a balance.
Here he goes. He then says, when asked if Arsenal, City and Newcastle are interested in, Palkin replied, every day I read about another English club. If you believe the newspapers, it is all of the English clubs. But to be honest, it is true, as I have had contact from many clubs, a lot of them are involved in this process. So that is everything, and fair play to The Athletic. They're giving us a lot of information on this deal and stuff. But I just think, when they say no smoke without fire, that's a lot of smoke.
Yeah. There's a fire. There's definitely a fire.
Yeah.
Forget the smoke. There's definitely a fire.
Yes, there is definitely a fire.
Yeah, and I've just checked Shakhtar's fixtures, and I want someone to confirm this from me out there, because you've got more time to research it. We're live for another at least half an hour. But it says Shakhtar don't return till the Europa League comes back, and their first fixtures in their league return on the 4th of March.
Okay.
So for them, there is no football for quite a little period.
So maybe their football's played over a calendar year, a bit like some other.
No, but they've already played 13 games in their season.
Oh, well then that definitely doesn't make sense.
So I'm not sure. Obviously, maybe the weather plays a part in that. Maybe the mid-season break is a bit longer than we're used to seeing around Europe, which usually is a couple of weeks at best. But I want someone in the chat. Dave says cold in the winter in Ukraine. That's what I'm assuming it is. But that's quite a long time to wait without football. So maybe that's why Mudryk is actually pushing for it as well, because he wants to kind of get back into the flow of things, come to Arsenal, continue his development, keep on pushing on, getting his name bigger and better. So
yeah, you're right. Let's see what the comments are saying. I take Felix over Mudryk. You asked me this yesterday in a fan camp, and I got a few comments I weren't particularly happy with me when I said Mudryk. I want to stress it's nothing to do with the quality of the players. The reality is I haven't seen enough of either. Felix has just been around for longer, but I think we need a Mudryk more than a Felix. I know that might sound crazy because we've just had the Jesus injury, but I just have this kind of weird faith that Eddie can do a job, that Martinelli can be a class number 9, that Jesus won't be out as long as we think, that Mudryk could probably even play up top. Whereas I kind of think if Felix isn't starting up top for us, where does he play? And I know he has played wide for Portugal, but I think
number 10 as well.
Maybe 10. I mean, what we've done so well is play with really direct, pacey wingers, and he doesn't strike me as direct. He strikes me as very technical, very classy, very intelligent with his movement. Yeah, but I don't know if he's like, I don't think he's going to get the ball and run at 5 players. But people that know him better might tell me, yeah, he absolutely has that. I don't know.
He does. He's definitely direct in the sense where he wants to get goals. He wants to get assists. I get what you mean in terms of when you watch Mudryk, you see him pick up the ball and run straight towards goal. I think Felix is a bit more technical. But listen, I've seen a lot of him. I haven't seen enough of him to say, he's the paciest of players, but he's got enough technical ability to kind of fit in with what we have now.
Sure.
And he does offer similarities to Jesus in terms of maybe being seen as a false 9 more than an out-and-out 9. But at the same time, maybe it's not a question of Felix and Mudryk. If I was to ask you, would you take both this January? And obviously that has an impact on our summer dealings. Would you do that? Because Felix, in my opinion, is quality player. I'd probably pick him over Mudryk, but I want both. And I feel like with Felix, we can get a deal done without having to spend too much in January, like a loan fee, option obligation to buy. That purchase kind of goes into the next financial year. It protects us a bit more. There's murmurs that Atletico need maybe not the money, but need to clear him off the wage bill as well. So I think both can be done, but I don't know the last time Arsenal signed 2 top players in January.
Yeah, and also I guess the other thing would be, well, would you add 2 forwards and not sign a midfielder? Do you know what I mean? Are Arsenal really going to sign 3, basically? I just don't see that happening. I'm actually quite confident we might do 2 deals. Dave Jordan says, no, don't want both. Felix would be 18 million for a profiler player we don't need and already have. Gross misuse of funds is his opinion. But then others, Carl makes a really good point. He says Felix is very similar to Jesus. Here's what we need. So I've just seen the comment come up on screen. I've never seen it like that.
No, right.
That threw me off. Carl says Felix is very similar to Jesus. Here's what we need with our style of play to give Jesus competition. So it goes back to that age-old debate that we've probably been having for a long time, actually, which is, do we get a plan B or do we get more depth to our plan A?
Yeah, well, this is the argument here, and obviously Mikel's got a plan, and like I said, into this season, their plan so far has put us in the position we're in. So I'm just sitting back and seeing what they have in store in January. I just don't want another January like last year where we're going for something, albeit last year it was top 4. This year it seems to be not necessarily a title challenge, because with that Jesus injury, it's hard to kind of see past that knocking our title challenge, but there can be something achieved this season. Jack has mentioned it coming back. He said, I've got something big to achieve at the club. So there must be talks, with the players, the staff. Edu and Arteta have alluded to, this is Arsenal. We need to be challenging for league titles. Zinchenko, Martinelli, the same. So someone said, I'm being unrealistic, but I'm trying to be realistic in a sense where if Felix is available on a loan with an obligation, then you go for him. Am I saying sign Felix for the fee that's being rumoured and Mudryk? That's definitely not realistic. But at the same time, you look at Tottenham's business last year, and the way they got Kulusevski in,
yeah, they're smart.
That package doesn't really affect their financials until this coming summer. Is it this coming summer? A year and a half loan, yeah. So you're seeing other clubs do shrewd bits of business in that sense. If that is available for us this time, then we could potentially get a quality player without spending anything in January.
And I do think Arsenal need to take a degree of risk. I mean, Liverpool signed Arthur Melo on loan from Juve, and a lot of people were saying that he wasn't good enough for Arsenal, but suddenly Liverpool, who were quadruple challenging last season, were willing to take a risk on him. Now, listen, I think often it comes down to like, well, are they the right? Are they going to be on board with the process? Are they the right attitude we're looking for? Blah blah blah. As long as that is all pretty much in the right position, and they play like Arthur, who has shown he can be a very good player at Barcelona, who's played European's highest level, I think might be worth a risk. I don't want Arsenal to miss out on maybe that risk that is what sometimes you've got to just take a punt. I
think you have to. I think every club takes risks. Don't you think it was a risk for Man City to let go of Sterling, Zinchenko and Jesus in one window? Of course it was a risk. But you take risks in order to try and push yourself forward. I think that's what you have to do, especially when you're trying to chase a Manchester City. Not so much a Liverpool this season, but over the years I would have thought you'd add Liverpool into that as well. Yeah, you got to take some risks. It's all good and well building the base, and I think Arteta's done a very good job in building a quality base that's kind of achieved what they've achieved so far, and that's being top of the Premier League, coasted through the group stages of the Europa League. Now I think when you're going for the last pieces of the puzzle, sometimes you have to take a risk. Sometimes you hear fans that, for example, they still lean on that Nicolas Pepe 75 mil, and they say, look what happened with that. Just because we tried once, took a risk once and it didn't work, it doesn't mean you don't do it again. It means learn from your mistakes, and the wage structure, it seems that we've learned, and aside from the Eddie deal, it seems that we've learned and we've got it into a good healthy shape. But there's going to come a time when you're going to need to take risks, and some risks will pay off, some won't. It's just that you hope that the risks that pay off far outweigh the risks that don't. Like, look at United's risks over the years. Most of them haven't paid off at all, if not all of them. Maybe you argue Casemiro's come in and done a good job so far. It's too early to say whether that risk has paid off or not, considering they spent 50, 60 on a 30-year-old. We'll see moving forward. Chelsea the same, a lot of risks. Werner, Havertz, Sterling this summer, Aubameyang this summer. That doesn't seem to have worked out, even though a couple of those obviously still early days. But then, you look at Man City, if they've taken risks, it's worked for them. You look at Liverpool, signing Alisson, signing Van Dijk. At the time, could have been seen as a risk at the price. But look how it's worked out for them. They've got a Premier League and a Champions League under their belts.
Yeah. Mike says, spot on, James. The time for risk is now. We're in first place till we aren't. If not now, then when? It's a fair point. I love this comment from, I think it's Buxia, I hope I pronounced it right. It says, AFTV, I went to the Arsenal-Milan game, saw Edu and Vinay, all the fans screaming, sign Mudryk and Tielemans. I told Edu to sign Messi, but he walked away.
Do you remember when Edu said, what did he say? Boom, Messi or something, about a year and a half ago.
What is that?
Fans just want,
Yeah.
Messi, boom.
Was that an interview?
I'm sure it was satin, right? Yeah. I remember that quote.
Don Robbie's desk there says, we're ahead of schedule on performance in a league play, so we need to adapt and buy bigger and faster. Granted, it may impact our summer, but I'm fine with that, knowing we got feasted in the January window. I know exactly what you mean. If someone said it's either no signings in January but 4 in the summer, or 2 in Jan and 2 in the summer, I'd rather 2. I'd even take 2 in January and 1 in the summer, because ultimately I think we're about 3 players away. Smith Rowe returning from injury, Patino development, Brooke Norton-Cuffy development. I think we're probably just Balogun returning.
Yeah.
I think we're probably about that amount away from having a group that, if not at least ready to challenge for the title now, is growing and is going to be.
Yeah. Because I understand as well, you mentioned midfield. I understand that's a priority. Before the Jesus injury, I would have said, get a forward across the front three, somewhere. Yeah. I'm not saying a forward that can play completely across the front three, because people are infatuated with that nowadays. Get a forward, whether it's left wing, right wing, or up front. Add some depth into that position, competition.
Yeah.
And then get a midfielder to kind of add some depth and rotational option to Thomas Partey's position. With the Jesus injury, I think the priorities kind of change. And if you asked me to pick out of the 4, Mudryk, Felix, Tielemans and Danilo, 2 of those to come in January, I'd still lean more towards Felix and Mudryk. Again, reason being, listen, I know Partey's injury problems. Trust me, no one knows more than me. We've all seen it over the last couple of years. But the fact of the matter is, with Jesus out, we're also in that same predicament that we're in with Partey, with Eddie and Nketiah. Because number one, okay, we can debate all day about whether we think Eddie's going to slot in well, whether we think he's going to score goals, or whether we think he's going to let us down. We can debate that all day. We don't know. We'll see. It's going to happen. We're going to see.
Yeah.
But if something happens to Eddie, then what happens up front? Same way, if something happens to Partey at this moment in time, okay, Lokonga steps in. It's not exactly the greatest of players to step. Oh, El Nene, yeah. So maybe there's an argument now that we've got more depth and cover in Partey's position than we do behind Eddie.
I think we probably do.
So,
I think the fear around, not Partey getting injured because he's unbelievable, but I think the fear around having depth for him, I've always found a little overblown. I've kind of always thought, yes, in an ideal world, but the forwards are the difference makers. I know we look a different team when Partey's not in it, I know. But I kind of think there's always enough to get us by, because you still got your first choice centre backs, you still got your first choice front three. Like at Old Trafford, we still played really well. I know probably Partey would have been the difference to actually turning that great performance into a win. But I then wonder, without Jesus, do we play that well at Old Trafford in the first place? What you did to Lissandro Martinez, the hold up, the link up, the chance we created. So I don't know. You could easily convince me the other way, to be fair. Dom says, I think Felix would play the left centre midfield role when he's not playing left wing or centre forward. His vision, passing is elite. Zinchenko tucking in inside lessens the burden defensively. Did Felix develop as a midfielder as well when he came through for Benfica? I seem to remember him.
Not that I remember.
No, so he's always been more of a front three player.
Yeah.
Or a 10.
He had a lot more freedom at Benfica, but at Atletico, he doesn't get that freedom because Simeone, we know what he's about. And to be honest with you, Simeone over the years, his style of play has managed to disrupt order in La Liga a couple of times. He's got to a couple of Champions League finals. So credit to him. People might not be a fan of his system, but one thing about Felix is he's went in there, outside looking in, including myself. It hasn't worked out well, but he hasn't kicked up a fuss. He hasn't, thrown his toys out of the pram. He's kind of got his head down, tried to make it work. This season, he's been on the bench quite a bit, and he's still kind of, not, I wouldn't say happy, but he's still not ruffling feathers. And I like that, because in this day and age now with player power, especially a player that's gone for 100 million, it's so easy to just turn around and be a bit of a spoilt brat about it and say, this ain't for me, I'm not being used right, I'm not getting along with him. So I think as much as I look at his time under Simeone and say it hasn't gone as I thought it might have, he might be a better player for it. Because look at Arteta as well. He demands people to press, to run, to work hard, and that's similar to Simeone. So he's already got that aspect to him without really causing a fuss about it. He's technically brilliant. His quality, I won't say second to none, but his quality is up there with the best when given a bit more freedom. So it's a very interesting proposition for the next club that buys him, because I think you've got a better player coming in than you would have had straight from Benfica, which sounds mad. Because at Benfica, he was a lot more.
I get what you mean. No,
headline grabber.
Yeah, I get what you mean. And more developed. He's had kind of more experience and more kind of different. He's had to use different tools and play the game in different ways, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
I see what you're saying. By the way, David Ornstein did tweet an hour ago exactly that quote that we read from CEO of Shakhtar Donetsk, Serhej Palkin, who said to Adam Crafton that Mudryk is quite far from what we want and what clubs propose. It's not so far, but it is not what we need. We have discussions. It is maybe 50-50 regards to the winter window. So, again, when a CEO is talking like that, I'm used to, it was at Aulas, the Leon, saying they agree a deal. They're about to sign. Nope, he's not leaving. Yeah. He's not going anywhere.
You can tell the Shakhtar CEOs, he's up for a deal.
Well, I think he's just being completely honest as well. Yeah. I mean, it's either that or it's so far advanced that it's kind of like the closer it is, there's only so far you can pull back. So if he's on the brink of joining, you're more likely to say, look, it's 50-50, we'll see. Valuation quite far, but not massively. But then if they're at the beginning of negotiations, he's much more likely to be like, no, he's not going. Like no one's going to afford what we're asking for. You know what I mean? Yep. So as you kind of get further, the more you get dragged over. We'll see. Fabrizio Romano did tweet this quote, which came again, Kayanak saying, we are very active looking at the possibilities. If we can find a player that can strengthen the team, we will try, says Mikel Arteta about transfers. Now, what I really want to do is look at what January could therefore look like, because I know we've been talking about the Mudryk stuff, but there is other things that have been coming up. Again, it comes up in the Athletic article. Let me just go back to what David Ornstein said. Now, the player, obviously, Mudryk, everyone's talking about, but there was a backup that was discussed, and that was Mateus Cunha from Atletico Madrid. How much do you know about him?
Who's that?
Mateus Cunha.
I don't know much about him at all. I don't know anything about him.
I think he was playing in the Bundesliga, I believe, before he moved to Atletico Madrid.
Isn't he linked to someone now? Close link.
Yeah, Wolves. So the early favourites to sign Cunha are Wolves, after they started dialogue over a deal that potentially have seen Atletico Madrid defender Felipe head to Molineux as well. They're seeking a package around 50 million euros for the pair. Anyway, we're not interested in the Felipe stuff. But there was a line on Arsenal. Let me find it. Meanwhile, Arsenal are weighing up whether to enter the frame as manager Arteta considers how to best cope in the absence of Jesus. So that's another name that we've been linked to, and again, this time by David Ornstein. Now, Cunha, I believe, is, again, haven't watched a lot of him, profile-wise, strikes me as a bit of a Firmino, can play 10, can play up front, plenty of flair. Comment section, let us know more about him. But that's another name that was mentioned. Could this be more negotiation tactics? Could this be more, I don't know, is this just Arsenal legitimately just finding backups in case a Mudryk or Felix still can't be done?
Or it's just these journalists throwing our name into the hat because it's going to get them more clicks.
It's in the same article as all the Mudryk stuff.
I just don't.
I just wonder why. I guess the more you put Arsenal in them. But
yeah, because I don't know much about him. You know, someone here says he's a baller, just needs the right system, and he thinks he'd do damage with us, and he could be a top player. I don't know much about him, but I didn't know much about Ben White coming in. I knew a bit about Ramsdale, but I wasn't happy with it. You could say the same for a couple players over the years that have come in, but it seems to have worked to get us into this position. So if we are interested and that is the person we go for, like I said, Arteta and Edu have done enough over the last 18 months in the transfer windows for me to kind of, aside from last January, the last 2 summer transfer windows, for me to be like, all right, let's see. And it sounds like he's similar to, I won't say similar to Jesus because I don't know how he plays, but in terms of a striker that's not necessarily an out-and-out 9, maybe a false 9/10, that still allows Saka, Martinelli to make the inward runs and get into the box and get into those positions. If you sign a target man, that probably changes up the system a bit and probably stifles the inward running of Martinelli and Saka a bit more, because then he becomes a focal point, whereas at this moment in time, I don't think we have a focal point.
No, it's a really good point. We'll keep an eye on the Matheus Cunha one. I think it's interesting that our name was put in there. Another name that was in this article is Danilo. Now, Palmeiras midfielder Danilo said, I see myself mature enough to be able to play in any competition in the world. I'm ready. He said this in an interview with Brazilian media outlet UOL Esporte last month. Feeling speculation he's heading for the Premier League. The 21-year-old has been heavily linked to Arsenal in particular, but is not thought to be a target for them at present. It's just surprising considering it's a name that's popped up a lot actually over the last few months. Actually felt like a deal that Arsenal probably could do, what with the season ending for the club he's at, Palmeiras that is, and then potentially being far more available in January, but maybe Arsenal just moved on.
I don't know about moved on. I think that Jesus injury kind of shakes up the priority list.
Okay.
And like you said, El Nene did return recently. And when you look at the midfield options now, we probably got more midfield options than striker. Well, not probably. We have more midfield options than striker options. Whether we're happy with the midfield options, that's another debate. That's cool. But we do have more bodies to fill in for Partey or fill in for Xhaka if anything was to happen than we do to fill in for Eddie at the moment.
Yeah, true.
So I guess that plays a part as well. And we're restricted financially. We always are. We're never going to be Manchester City or Chelsea under Roman, or even Todd Bowley, to be honest, because he's been spending a hell of a lot, and it seems like he's going to spend more with Brozier out injured. So we have to understand the restrictions that are in place, but hopefully, this ownership maximizes what we do have, and gets who we need in, or who they think we need in, or who Arteta thinks we need in.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I trust Arteta a lot more. I trust Edu a lot more. Still the same with the Kroenkes, and I needed to see at least another 4 windows to see if I trust them a lot more.
Yeah.
But January is the first one of the 4.
Yeah. Carl says, James, you've got a hole in your elbow. I know, this is the first time I put this jumper on in a year and I completely forgot I had it. It's really comfortable. So apologies. If you want jumpers without holes, check out the AFTV merch in the link in the description. That's where you can find really nice. This is an AFTV merch, by the way. I think this is super dry. I've had this for about 5 years. It's really warm, and it's 1 degree out here in London.
Yeah, it's peak. It's probably worse than that.
So cold. I think from Sunday it's back up to 10.
Oh, is it good? So all this stuff can melt, but ice and snow can melt out there because it's just pissing me off.
It's hanging around. It melted. Was it Sunday night? It snowed.
Sunday night, yeah.
It's been hanging around,
and it's just icy out there now. I've nearly slipped a couple of times. And with my knee, if I slip, then that could be it for 6 months. So,
no. Hey, Gabriel Jesus, how you doing? Yeah, same medial ligament.
Yeah, it's all mad.
Fair enough. Okay, other transfer stuff. This is just a complete transfer show basically because there's so much going on. Touched on Danilo, touched on Cunha, touched on Felix, touched on Mudryk. The other player that was talked about a little bit was Vlahovic.
Now, I'm
going to find the exact quote somewhere and see when's it, because I like Z for my information. ZRAFC.
Oh, yeah.
He likes to aggregate all the news. But apparently I saw it going around on Twitter that, Arsenal have very much moved on from Vlahovic. They kind of, the way, I remember the story but that I read, but it was essentially the way they just sort of weren't really ready to or willing to engage with Arsenal last January has just kind of put them off. And I don't think he's had a great 12 months at Juve. He is looking to leave. Chelsea, I think, might be a club in for him, especially now the Brozier injury is set to keep him out for the season. And Arsenal just aren't interested anymore. But isn't it so funny how player perception can change so much in 12 months? And maybe that's why we need to have a degree of handbrake on a player like Mudryk, because his come up in terms of the reputation, in terms of a signing and all that, has been so quick, like Vlahovic's, but also it can very quickly become a player that you're very willing to just dismiss and move on from.
Yeah, it's like football now is all fits and systems. So if you're not the right fit in the right system, then you're not necessarily going to kick on from where you kind of built your name or made your name or, you know, grab the headline. So it just seems like it's one of those, and you add the Juventus turmoil and what's going on behind the scenes. Is Allegri still manager?
Yes.
Well, he's hanging on for dear life because some of the results before the World Cup break was all mad. But I guess at the same time, you look at Mikel Arteta, he hung on for dear life at times and we're better for it. So, you know, we'll just see how it plays out. With Vlahovic, I think, you know, that's someone I'd still want. But if you add the Shakhtar, you know, Serbia, Albania, the issues and the history behind it, I guess it wouldn't work.
Yeah, we got here from Anthony. Says don't want Vlahovic. He chose He chose Juventus and totally disregarded Arsenal. I think there's still so much misery around. What's this? Sorry, not misery, mystery around what happened with Vlahovic in January. And did we bid? Did we not? Was it close? Did they pick up the call? All that.
Well, he came out and said he didn't know about the interest. So
yeah,
maybe it's nothing.
Is that to get Arsenal fans off his back a little bit? You know. Let's say he ever did want to move, or let's say that ever happened. He doesn't want to go there being like, no, I rejected you the first time. I don't know. Maybe
I don't think it's bad to say, yeah, there was some interest, but I prefer to stay in Italy. I don't think that would have been a negative response either. I think a lot of people can understand that. So
it's a very good point. Jacob says, for me, I'd rather just go for Danilo and Mudryk, or maybe Tielemans. It's hard to tell what's going to happen. I'm going to trust Arteta and they do. Have fun with the weather. Colorado isn't treating us nice with the weather. What's happened to this Tielemans stuff? I mean, where did that just disappear from? I mean, now we're hearing Arsenal might be willing to do that as a free transfer in the summer, but I just think the more you put this off, the more you're saying, we want you, but not that much. That's how I take it.
Yeah, but at the same time, priorities. Right, it could be the same thing. Yeah. You know, a 10 million could be the difference between a Mudryk coming in or not. So, you know, do you really want to go spend 10, 15 on Tielemans in January when you could potentially get by to the summer and get him for free? Oh, you know, we'll see it all unfold. Yeah. You know, over the years, like I said, they've done good bits. I've wanted certain players, and them certain players have gone to other clubs, haven't performed. So what do I know? I can only go by what Mikel and Edu have done, and a lot of the players in the squad now, there's a connection there. I like the majority of the squad, and it's been a long time since I could say that, a very long time, not just 3 years. It's much longer than that. So yeah, I'm just, you know, I'm happy to sit back and watch it unfold, but I want to see something unfold. That's not me saying let me sit back and if we don't do anything in January, then I'm gonna be content with it. No, like let's do something in January. Arteta again, 8th of January last year. You need to maximize every window to keep up at the top. Yeah, we didn't maximize last January, so let's make sure we do this one.
So to sum up, what are we expecting Arsenal and their January to look like? With everything we know, we've just rattled through a lot of. I mean, I didn't even mention Yunus Musa, as Matthew mentioned here, is available for 20 million. So to run it all off, what do we expect January to look like?
Okay, are you asking me expect off of the history of this club and ownership, or expect off of the rumour mill?
No, then what do you think is going to happen this January?
One signing.
You think one signing? Okay.
That's what I expect, knowing the ownership.
Would you be happy? Would you be happy with just Mudryk coming
in? Again, I'm just going to sit back and watch it.
Sure.
You know, I want to do some business. What I'll definitely be unhappy with is not doing any business. That is for sure.
Yeah, that would be poor.
Now, Mudryk coming in, I'm definitely happy with that. I guess I look at Eddie as well and see how he hits the ground running against West Ham, Brighton, going into that Tottenham, Newcastle, United set of fixtures. But if you ask me now, would I be happy with one signing? Well, compared to last January, yes. But that could change in 2 weeks not 2 weeks. Let's say that could change in 3 weeks once we see Eddie come into the side and we play those games and we face, you know, the Newcastles, Tottenhams and Uniteds and see how we fare. You know, it's all a balance. And like I said, I know that this club is definitely restricted at the moment financially. A lot of people dismiss that UEFA watch list in the summer. I understand that. But at the same time, FFP is still about, we're not necessarily a club that have manipulated the market in that sense like a Manchester City have. So I know that we're limited. We're massive. We sell out every game. That black and gold kit is the best selling kit of all time across any club. That's all good and well, but to be a Man City or to be a Chelsea, you need an owner that's willing to manipulate the market and put his hand in his pocket or open up revenue avenues.
Dave Jordan thinks one signing and a pre-contract with Evan Ndika. That was another player that was linked with us. Again, it wasn't probably the most reliable of reports, or certainly not one I recognise a lot myself, but they were making pretty big claims that he's agreed a deal with Arsenal to join in the summer. And listen, it's a deal that I think would make a bit of sense. So,
what is he, left-footed?
Left-footed.
Okay, so Gabriel back
6'4" centre-back. Good on the ball, I think, from what I've seen anyway on YouTube.
Well, we need someone for Gabriel in terms of backup rotation, so that would make sense, especially for a free.
Yeah,
we've got Austin Trusty there somewhere as well. So
he's doing quite well at Birmingham. HE says make a poll of how many players 0 to 3. Let's do that. Let's get a poll in there. 0, 1, 2, or 3 players. How many players will Arsenal sign in January? My expectation is 2. I think they will do 2. Because they didn't do anything in January, this January. They didn't do as much as they wanted to in the summer, and were very publicly chasing Rafinha and Douglas Luiz by the end.
Yep.
Plus loads of Tielemans rumours. And now the Mudryk stuff is so... It's so hot in the press at the moment, but it's also so ahead. The window doesn't actually open for another 2-3 weeks. That makes me think that's one they maybe really want to get done quite quickly, and then they've still got January to address central midfield. So I'm going to go with 2 personally.
2? Does it matter what 2? Like in terms of one's a starter, one's a backup, or one's ready made and one's for the future? Does that matter?
No, I think it's got to be. Do you remember when we started like Thomas Eisfeld 1 January? Like with all due respect,
that's kind of what I mean.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be
Kim Kallstrom or something like that.
Right, I'm thinking 2 legitimate, like a loan. Like if we did our own version of an Arthur Melo on loan, that counts. But I think they will bring in 2 players that are going to contribute to the season this January. That is my prediction. Let's go through some more comments.
The poll is up as well, by the way, so you can vote for your thoughts. I know a lot of people are saying 1, 2, 3s and 0s, but go to the poll and vote there, and we'll touch in on that once we're wrapping up the show.
Absolutely. Vlahovic says left us. Sorry, Vlahovic didn't say. What was it the other day? I said Mudryk's in the chat. Yeah. Vlahovic left us on delivered, and now they're trying to get rid of him. Jokes he can join Chelsea and take selfies with Aubameyang. Nothing personal, Duzan. That's from Young Gunner. I'll tell you what, though. I think he did quite well under Potter.
That's just, he's a good striker, man.
Yeah. Joshua says, James in Turkish, what does a perfect January look like for you to get 10 out of 10 or a KSC I love you from Turkish? You have to be realistic, though. Okay, quickly, a 10 out of 10 window for you.
Okay, because I love you, Kroenke, ain't happening. So a 10 out of 10 window, loan Felix with an obligation to buy maybe around 75, 80 mil in the summer. Bring in Mudryk, 40 mil or so. And then Danilo would probably make the January window a 10-10, but Mudryk and Felix alone would probably make it a 9 for me. So I think Danilo is just the icing on the cake.
Okay. Richard said, my son and I are going to the Emirates for our first ever live game on Saturday for the friendly. Will you guys be there? There will be people, absolutely at the game. I think we're still, we'll be doing a watch long here. We'll be at the game. Yeah, short answer is yes. But you're just reminding me that I need to kind of think about whether I'm going to be there after the game or not.
Oh yeah, true. Well, I'm taking my little man's winter wonderland. So.
Oh bless.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be his first time.
Yeah. So I'm not even watching the game.
Oh, that'd be really nice. Don't worry, I'll send you constant updates.
Yeah, do that.
I'll send you a text.
And we put airplane mode on. And
Martinelli's coming on. Brackets 76.
I know you'll do that as well.
I will. Just as Mikel proved to the board that we could win the Premier League, and we can do it with hardworking, talented kids. I'm not going to read that last bit. He says, okay, I am, but I don't agree. It says minus Eddie and Reece. That's harsh. 2 signings, Mudryk and Milinkovic-Savic, Sushref once. He does not rate Eddie and Reece.
Look at what Dave said. Jordan won't be watching either. Don't worry, Turkish. I can join him on Forever Arsenal and say, We're in this together this time, mate.
Guys, we have to send you over to the Forever Arsenal podcast. Go watch if you haven't yet. Not only does Jordan decide to address every single negative comment he got on the last video, and he does it with such class, to be fair, but we always have a great time, so go follow it, and it's all on Spotify as well, other podcast platforms, soon to be on Apple Podcasts as well, so really can't recommend that enough. Obviously, of all the content we do, and I do a lot of content, love to Graham and Tactical Insight and all that, but that is a show I can do wherever. Just get on your phone, let's record podcasts and just chat.
It's enjoyable, isn't it?
Yeah, we have a lot of fun doing it, so really can't recommend it enough, guys. All right, let's just end with this last bit, and this is on the Fabrizio Romano tweet where he talks about Arteta and the Arsenal plans for January. He also said, when asked about Ben White, he says, "We love to have him here. We know the reasons he had to leave." Now, again, we'd only be bordering on the whole speculation stuff by going into it too much, but I don't want to just sort of say things and pretend I never said them. I was very harsh on the journalist and the article that was discussing Ben White leaving and him having fallen out with a coach and all that. I know that Lee was on the watch along with you yesterday and said that he thinks there might be something to that. Now, I think my kind of my thoughts on reflection are, I think something might have gone on. I just still to this day really struggle to believe that that would be a reason why a player would leave an England camp.
Yeah.
And when you look at the response from Arsenal and England, and they would have been informed, at least they would have known, listen, this is kind of the tone of what's going on. So I still really struggle to believe that it's just that, but I am very happy for him that he's back in an environment where, Arteta really does seem to love him. You see him kind of the way he grabs his cheek and whatever after a game and a win, and he gives him a lot of that kind of affection and love and support. And I think White will just be back in an environment he likes, and he's straight out there playing already, and I just hope he's happy and all right, really.
Listen, they said for personal reasons, so leave it personal. Everyone's got a right to their privacy. And to be honest with you, I don't give a shit if he left England. I don't care. As long as he's back with Arsenal in time for the West Ham game, that's all I care about. And he is. So, big up Ben White. That's all I care about. I don't care. Even if he had an argument with Steve Holland or whoever in England, I don't care.
No, I'm so with you. I don't really care.
As long, I'd rather it be that than something, something a bit more. Yeah. What the rumours were beforehand. Well, I don't know the rumours, but in terms
the speculation,
of personal
the ways,
reason, the heart from Rob Holding, we're all with you from Arsenal. It sounded like, something a bit deeper than just an argument with the England camp. And to be honest with you, I don't think Ben White's the type to kick up a fuss because he isn't playing for England. I think he would have been more than happy to be selected, and that's it. So it is what it is. Personal reasons, privacy. He's back with Arsenal. Who gives a shit?
We'll wait to round it off. What's the update on Evan Ndika, James? That's a question from Moraka. Listen, we touched on it probably about 10 minutes ago on the show, but essentially there is no real update. One report said that it looked like he'd agreed. One report said he's agreed to join Arsenal, but we haven't heard anything since.
And a question from Cape Town: what has Felix done to make you think he's worth 75, 80 million? What did Pepe do to make us think 72 million? What did Havertz do to be 70 million? What did Anthony do to be 100 million? I could just keep on going on and on. That is the market now. So if someone has quality and they're young, they tend to go for roughly 70 to 120 mil. Nothing we can do about that. So,
well, can I flip that and say Sancho did a lot in being an England international, do brilliantly at Dortmund, it hasn't worked for him at Man United. Now, on a human level, I hope he's all right, but it's very strange on a footballing level to hear that he's kind of not involved in the Man United camp at all at the moment, and that he's sort of taking some time away, or I don't really quite know. Obviously, I'm not a United fan, I haven't followed that closely, but something strange is going on there. And he had actually a lot of evidence, having been a youngster at City and done what he did at Dortmund, that he was worth that money, and it hasn't worked. So every signing's a risk, essentially. Every signing
is a risk. That is the bottom line too. And then he says, so we should make the same mistakes. No, stop being so narrow-minded, because then I could say Alisson was 75 mil. Did that work out? Van Dijk was however many mil. Did that work out? And this list can go on as well. We just mentioned at the start, you take risks. Some are going to pay off, some are not. You just hope that more pay off than don't. Yeah. Man City have been excellent at that without really overspending too much. Take Jack Grealish out of it. They've managed to, bring in quality players and get top dollar in return once they are finished with them. Yeah. So, it's not, stop being closed-minded and asking closed questions. They're all risks. But if you spend We got rid of Willock, 25 mil. We brought in Lokonga for 17 mil. Did that pay off? Not yet. I'd probably still want Willock ahead of him if I'm honest with you. But that's not us spending 17 mil and it flopping. You can even spend 17 mil and it doesn't really work out. It is what it is. You can offer a contract for 100k and it not work out. So if you're going to ask these questions, we'll be here all day long.
Yeah. John, thank you for your comment. I saw the other one that told me to go back to this one. He says, Bild has challenged the report that Ndika and Arsenal have agreed to a deal. Bild reported that Ndika hasn't committed to anyone. So there you go. That is the update then on Ndika. Apologies for missing that. Although when it's not good news about us not signing a player, you actually very rarely come across that. When it looks like we might sign a player, everyone's talking about it. So there you go. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Felix gives me Havertz flop vibes, says Anthony.
I don't know how people can, if I ask you to tell me how you've come to that conclusion, I don't know how someone would explain how they've come to that conclusion, if I'm honest with you. It's just people just saying stuff for the sake of it. Am I saying Felix will come and be a star? I don't know. But I know his quality. I know he's young. And I know he possesses the attributes that Arteta can work with in the system he's using at the moment. Does it mean he's guaranteed to be a success? No.
Sure.
It's life. What can you do?
Fair enough. All right, guys, we're going to leave it there. Anything else Turkish you want to
No, that's whiz by as well. I just clocked this 6 already.
Yeah, that's absolutely whiz by. Well, listen, transfer stuff is always exciting. But I think just to round off the show, I just think, while I never want to give anyone false hope, and I know some people might think, people at AFTV are getting excited about Mudryk, so maybe I should get excited about Mudryk or whatever, or anyone watching these shows who, appreciates our opinions or whatever. Look, you're always going to have deals that can be extremely close and then they fall apart. You're always going to have a lot of smoke when sometimes there's barely any fire. That can absolutely be the case. But I just think there's been a lot on Mudryk and a lot on Arsenal's willingness to spend this January. And, some quotes from Arteta that just make me think that this, and a lot from Mudryk himself, which makes me think that this is one you can actually legitimately start to get excited or at least be optimistic about. If it doesn't happen, it's not my fault.
Yeah, the price tag seems right. He's opening his arms to us. The rest is to come. We'll see.
Let's see. We will see. I think we'll hear more about this in the coming weeks. I'd be amazed if this goes late into January, but you never know with anything, especially with Arsenal.
Hopefully it's early.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to leave it there. Big thanks for joining me, Turkish. Guys, don't forget to hit the link in the description to get your AFTV merch. There's still some Christmas stuff, but of course, if you want to prepare for the return of Arsenal and the new season, get your Saliba, get your Ramsdale top. What we've got here, head over to shop.aftv.co. I think it's aftvstore.com. Hit the link in the description. It's one of those. Anyway, hit the link in the description. You'll find it all there.
Love.
Always a pleasure. Really enjoyed this one. Shakhtar CEO has been in London for Mudryk talks, so let's see what happens. Come on, Arsenal, let's get it done.